Hey there, ho there, ho there. It's Jeff Cutter Diamond. It's time to do the Degrassi Next Generation characters. Now, for the purpose of this list, the iteration is from season 1 to 14. Next class will be a separate one, so obviously I'm going to do next class. So basically, I'm going to talk about the Next Generation stuff. There will be probably um, some people from next class that are basically in the Next Generation, but I'll talk about the Next Generation stuff and then the next class stuff. First of all is Adam Torres, who was born in Gracie, a transgendered boy, the first transgendered character on Degrassi and making Canadian history. He and his brother, quote unquote, brother Drew, transferred to Degrassi due to the excessive bullying at his old school. After Bianca somehow outs him, he's the victim of transphobia. But he gets respect and admiration from his classmates, mostly Claire and Eli. That. He finds love with Becky, but unfortunately Becky's parents don't really want her with a trans boy. Adam actually gets in a car crash after texting Becky while driving, texting and driving, and passes away. A lot of people make it a controversy. Well, season 10 to 13 says that basically the large and loyal audience was to Adam Torres, an authentic, multi-dimensional transgender character. Not only made TV history and set a new standard industry for LGBT inclusion. And with so few transgender characters on TV, why did Adam's story have to end this way? But anyway, the creator Linda Schuyler said that the combination of Adam being a favorite character and Jordan being at the end of her contract presented a unique opportunity to tell this story through such a beloved character. As sad as we are to say goodbye to Adam, we feel that the storyline will affect more lives in an authentic way. So yeah. So Adam also was victimized by a gunshot because someone was trying to shoot Drew because of what Drew and Bianca did to Anson. But thankfully, everything. Alex Nunez, seasons 3 to 7. She was a poor, violent outcast whose home life involves protecting her mother from her abusive boyfriends. She's considered a bad girl to Degrassi. She hangs out with Jay and his gang. But her exterior softens as she befriends Ellie, Marco, and Paige. And of course, Palex, Palex, starts with Alex and Paige, the same sex relationship. She tries to become a stripper to prevent her family from being affected. So basically, she moves in with Paige, Marco, and Ellie after realizing things. And so basically, she breaks up with Paige because they were headed down different paths. And of course, as we all know with the Rick Murray situation, that Alex did the paint and feathers. She pulled it off like the setup for it, but never got punished. Mostly because Jay and Spinner didn't feel that she should be punished. You have Ali Bandiri from season 8 to 14. Ali is Sav's younger sister and Claire Edwards' best friend. For most of her Degrassi tenure, she has rebelled against her Muslim upbringing and becoming involved in difficult situations, including with boys. After her parents were alerted to her former ways through the disciplinary file, she realized she needed to improve her life. She tries her best, but basically, she repeats the same mistakes. So basically, she tries with boys, but can't do anything. She actually ends up being with Leo, but unfortunately, Leo becomes abusive to her. So basically, Allie leaves Leo and dates Dallas. Yeah, of course, Allie basically was not happy with her parents trying to make her like a slave in a sense, like her upbringing, all that. But I mean, her parents changed their tone. I guess what Sav said something to them, and so basically they redid themselves. Anya McPherson. She transferred from Lakehurst to Degrassi with her classmates, of course, when the fire happened in season 7. She is Holly J's on again, off again best friend and a frequent target of her bossiness and criticism. Unfortunately, she has a bad relationship with Sav because of Sav's Muslim beliefs. She actually has a hobby for LARPing, live action role playing. So anyway, she is told by Holly J to fake a pregnancy so that Holly J can win the student elections. Unfortunately, status votes were increased, and Holly J must have been pissed that Anya went against Holly J. Her mother, Anya's mother, is diagnosed with cancer. She tries to date her mother's doctor, but she's only 17. So basically, she had troubles on career plans, and she decides to enlist in the Canadian Air Force. Ashley Kerwin, seasons 1 to 7. She is Toby's stepsister. She's popular and at the top of her class. Unfortunately, she takes ecstasy in the end of season 1 and damages her relationship with many people. She actually becomes a goth and dates Craig until Craig has a relationship with Manny. She's cordial with Craig again and joins his band, but Spinner and Mark will kick her out. Craig and Ashley actually rekindle a relationship in season 4. Craig proposes to her, but she refuses. Basically, that's when we learn Craig had bipolar disorder. She decides to go to England and meets a new guy. She actually ends up returning to Degrassi in season 6 and 7 to finish school and rekindles her relationship with Jimmy. So basically, she ends up leaving school to go to Europe with Craig. Becky Baker, season 12 to 14. She's an enthusiastic and conservative Christian with a passion for theater. Becky and Eli were supposed to write Romeo and Juliet, but basically Eli changes it to Romeo and Jewel. Same thing. She has to protest because of conservative beliefs, but is upset of Christian sexuality and Adam's gendered identity. She becomes racked with guilt after Adam's death, and she's never told that Adam actually dated Imogen. All that. She investigates the rape of Zoe that occurred at Miles' party. She discovers that her brother is involved in the rape and insists Zoe in turning him in. She decides to go to the University of Vermont for biology. Of course, Becky, testifying against her brother, brought her family at a distance with her to try to distance her themselves from her. I'm still utterly convinced that Becky's mom basically had something out for Becky. I mean, to go against your brother is one thing, but to date a transgender person like Adam, I feel that Becky's mom is basically a jerk. Good old Bianca D'Souza next. She's a bad girl and all that. She pursues Drew. All that. Basically, they start dating. An ex-boyfriend tries to rape her. Drew tries to save her and nearly dies, but Bianca kills Hanson. Vince wants payback. Bianca is forced into a sexual relationship with Vince to ensure that he won't harm Drew. So basically, Drew breaks up with Bianca. But Drew and Bianca rekindle their relationship and get engaged. But Drew's mom says they shouldn't get married. Basically, on Thanksgiving, she returns remorsefully, breaks up with Drew after realizing she wasn't the same person she was before. There was Blue Shazx, who was in only 11 episodes. He's an artsy guy. Holly J is interested in him. But unfortunately, Blue doesn't do a good job. Bruce the Moose from 97, 25 episodes. A friend of Johnny and Derek's. He's a typical bully on a football team. He makes fun of other students at Degrassi whenever he gets a chance. He catches Dave pouring urine all over his locker and threatens to meet him after school the next day. Dave tries to make peace with Bruce. And basically, there's the thing. So yeah, they were in a prank war, Dave and Bruce. Cam Saunders comes up. He only appeared in 20 episodes, of course, in season 12. He was the best player on the hockey team, the Ice Hounds. He was considered to go to the NHL. So basically, Cam develops feelings for Maya, and they begin a relationship. Unfortunately, the pressure of hockey has stress on him, and he lives 10 hours from home, which causes him to have depression. He actually jumps up a catwalk and breaks his arm. Cam, Maya, and Steak are in a love triangle and causes stress. Additionally, Cam feels stressed from the love triangle, Dallas, and feeling hopeless. Cam wants Maya to meet him outside of Degrassi. And while waiting for Maya, Steak calls him a psycho, claiming that if Cam loved Maya, he would stay out of her life forever. Cam's depression is pushed too far and basically breaks it off with Maya on a text message. So basically, he commits suicide in the school greenhouse, and Eli finds his body the next day. Cam's death was really huge because it brought a multi-season storyline that was brought to light. Normally, when people have depression and all that, it's just one season, but it took a lot. It took a big toll on Maya. Shantae Black. She's the gossip queen of Degrassi, member of the Power Squad. It's kind of strange how she was in season 4 and 5, and then her last regular appearance was season 11. So basically, Shantae tries her best to be with Danny, but it didn't really work. When Principal Simpson cancels all school clubs because of his crackdowns of casino night, Shantae tries to convince Principal Simpson to hold the form to get the clubs back. And she does. All right, it's time for Claire Edwards. Claire is Darcy's younger sister and best friends with Allie. She attended private school before going to Degrassi. She decides to continue to wear her private school uniform at Degrassi, but later begins to change her looks. She develops a crush on Casey and they date for a while. Principal Shep calls her a bitch for protesting against him after he's rude to the gifted class. She ends up having laser eye surgery and stops wearing glasses. She meets Eli and they develop feelings when he helps her deal with her parents' fights and eventual divorce. She feels that the relationship is suffocating, and Eli decides to crash his car in hopes that she will visit him in the hospital. But Claire realized his motives. She ends up in a relationship with Jake, her mother's boyfriend's son. Unfortunately, the parents get married. That means that Claire and Jake are now step-siblings. They want to have a relationship. She doesn't know what to do. She does get a journalism internship, but her boss sexually harasses her, and she loses the internship. She decided to frame him with naked pictures, but had to change her heart. Claire unfortunately gets cancer in season 13 but survives her illness. Eli unfortunately cheats on her. Claire develops strong feelings for Drew and Eli and all that. But Drew says that we can't have a relationship because she still loves Eli. So anyway, Claire ends up passing out and gets a doctor about her and her family. She was actually pregnant and assumed it was Drew's child. Unfortunately, it was Eli's child because she was further along than she thought. She was accepted to Columbia University. And Claire and Eli rekindle their relationship, but unfortunately Claire miscarries the baby and Eli helps her through it. Claire graduates and decides to take a gap year, but they want to make a long-distance relationship work and they kiss. Claire, of course, is upset that Principal Pill decided to try to calm her down and all that, thinking that, wait, you're spying on us. What are you doing? So anyway, good old Claire and all that. Connor was season 8 to 14 regular, 106 episodes. He is the godson to Snake and Spike. He has Asperger's syndrome. He befriends Casey, Allie, and Claire and develops a crush on Claire. He starts a band called the Three Tenors, playing DJ. Unfortunately, he's addicted to online role-playing and has a relationship with middle-aged women. And then, unfortunately, he starts to steal underwear from the female students in an attempt to try to do some kind of dressing app and all that. He ends up being suspended and basically does that stuff. Connor, of course, has issues and all that, but he starts dating Jenna, and they actually have a decent relationship at the end of season 14. Next is Craig Manning. Craig is a ladies' man with passion for music. He's Angie's half-brother. He is physically and emotionally abused by his father until he moves in with Joey. who ended up being his deceased mother's husband. He tries to rekindle his friendship relationship with his father, but his father didn't really change. So he decides to date Ashley, but cheats on her with Manny, who he actually gets pregnant and all that. So he is the co-founder of Downtown Sasquatch. Craig in season 4 has a relationship with Ashley. He decides to propose to her. I don't know why. But then things turn bad, and then we find out about his bipolar disorder. Craig, unfortunately, goes off the rails when he learns that Ashley's going to England, and then actually breaks up with him while in England. Ellie develops a crush on him, but he ignores her for Manny. He decides to move out of Toronto to start his music career, but unfortunately he has a cocaine addiction. He is seen performing at a Purple Dragon concert. So basically, Craig is in Los Angeles and all that, but his drugs got something. All that. So anyway, Craig has been around for a few episodes. Yeah, Craig. It was weird in season 2 when we are introduced to Craig. Is that basically, Craig, was hanging around with Angie, and we're like, what the hell, man? But then we soon learned that Angie is his half brother, and we learned that Craig's mom dumped Albert, Craig's dad, to be with Joey, and Craig's dad basically beats Craig up for that. I think his hatred from Joey. Anyway, Mike Dallas is next, or simply known as Dallas. He ends up having a child with a girlfriend at age 15. He's the captain of the Icehounds hockey team, and actually lived in the Taurus' home. Unfortunately, he basically gives Cam some issues and all that, not understanding Cam's situation and all that. He takes Cam's suicide hard, believing it was his own fault, and almost jumps off the roof of the school until Fiona talks him out of it. So basically, he has some racial profiling and all that before he goes to Japan to play hockey. And then comes Damian Hayes, who was only in 9 episodes, but he managed to have 3 relationships. Damian was Lakehurst student council president until the school burns down and Lakehurst has to move to Degrassi. He hooks up with Manny the night of JT's death. He actually has a relationship with Manny, but he's attracted to Liberty. So basically, it was some kind of love triangle and all that. Liberty felt bad that the fact that she had stolen Damian from Emma and all that. But Emma told Liberty that it's fine. Damian's the bad guy. It's not Liberty. So anyway, speaking of Liberty, her brother Danny Van Sant. Danny is Liberty's younger brother. He is friends with JT and Derek. He, of course, is framed by shoplifting by Derek because he got close to a girl Derek has a crush on. So basically, Danny has feelings for Leia and Shantae and all that. So practically, Danny, was jealous of Liberty being with JT because Danny wanted to hang around JT. So basically, he wanted to he does out Liberty and JT's relationship to their parents. But Liberty convinces Danny to have a change of heart and all that. Danny basically tells JT to help him take care of a kid for a robot baby for some kind of course, because if JT and Liberty refuse, then he's going to tell on them about Liberty being pregnant and all that. So anyway, yeah, so that's huge. Darcy Edwards, Darcy being Claire's older sister. She's a straight-laced Christian, a member of the Friendship Club, and the leader of Spirit Squad. She dates Spinner and helps him to convert to be a born-again Christian. Unfortunately, she decides to post photos of herself online that attracts a man wanting to pay for them, but it's a 40-year-old middle-aged man. Peter kind of had a hand in it too. Spinner basically breaks up with her because of her hypocritical behavior. So she develops the relationship with Peter. She ends up being raped and gets chlamydia. She tries to commit suicide after the discovery and is put in counseling. She actually accuses Snake of inappropriate behavior, which leads to investigation and his suspension from Degrassi. Basically, Darcy realizes about her mistakes and basically tries to rebuild her spirit. She moves to Kenya to build homes and leaves Peter behind. So practically, Darcy had a problem. Darcy and Peter's relationship was kind of iffy at that. You know, it was kind of toxic. But Peter also helped Darcy get over her rape, in a sense, at brat camp. All that. Darcy felt so terrible about herself because she's now damaged goods and that everyone hates her and all that. She practically says that Claire's the good one. Yeah, I feel for Darcy. Dave Turner comes in. A lot of people hate on Dave in the Degrassi stuff. Dave is Shantae's cousin. His goal at Degrassi is to rise to the top. But unfortunately, he gets in a bump with Bruce. Dave forms a band with Wesley and Connor called the Three Tenors as lead vocals. And he's embarrassed that his father is a police officer at the school after Vegas night and all that. Dave wants a relationship with Jacinda, but, you know, something happened. Unfortunately, Dave was not really utilized as much as we all thought he would. And a lot of people practically say that, you know, it wasn't meant to be, in a sense. Next will be Declan Coyne. Declan is Fiona's twin brother. He's rich and calm and conceited. He develops an attraction to Jane, meaning that Jane cheats on Spinner. So basically, Declan is attracted to Holly J, and they have things and all that. So basically, Declan wants Holly J to come to New York to see him and all that. All that. He has the law relationship with Holly, but he offers her money to remedy her financial woes. But basically, she breaks up with him. Derek Haig is the class clown and occasional bully. He admitted in season 5 he was adopted and mocks Jimmy's basketball coaching because he doesn't think a cripple can teach someone about basketball. Jenny and Derek are great friends, but Derek basically framed him for stuff. So yeah, Derek helps Liberty out because Liberty is upset over losing her baby over adoption and all that. And Derek says, well, I've been adopted too. And how about a treasure, some kind of chest or something to help the baby learn things? And practically, that's what happened. Next is Drew Torres, Adam's stepbrother and son of Audra Torres. I think that Adam and Drew had different mothers. He tries out for the football team and becomes Riley's rival for quarterback. He actually blackmails Riley by threatening to out him. But he also blackmailed Riley because Riley was making the hazing thing. So basically, Drew gets a relationship with Bianca, but Anson almost ruins it, all that. Unfortunately, he's beaten up by a gang and gets PTSD. He beats up Vince after realizing that Vince wants to take Bianca away. He convinces Bianca to turn Vince in with all the information he knows about the gang activities. Drew has a relationship with Katie, but has feelings for Bianca. He decides to move in with Fiona and drops out of Degrassi. He ends up returning to school as student council president. Drew has a lot of issues and all that. He thinks that he's Claire's baby's father. Unfortunately, it would be Eli. Drew, as student council president, will get in deep trouble in season 14. In the finale, that he makes a silly little promposal, but unfortunately, Pill's stuff about affection ruins him. Drew's not allowed to attend prom. Drew actually tries to set up prom, but after realizing that the prom is ruined because of some date issues, he basically is told by his mom to fix it. So he does. He he holds the prom in the school. Pill is angry, and Pill wants Drew to out students. Drew refuses. So basically, Pill says that she's going to make an example of Drew. Says you can graduate, but you won't cross the stage. Sadly, though, her plan fails as Dallas basically tells everyone about the plan, about what Pill did. So practically, things looked very, 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 very bad. So yeah, that's what happens, I guess. All right, next is Eli. Eli has an obsession with death. That's what people believe because he was wearing black and driving that hearse. Of course, he develops feelings for Claire and all of that. So, unfortunately, he becomes overprotective of Claire. Claire wants to take a break, but Eli wants Claire out. He takes his anti-anxiety pills, but it caused him to show no emotion towards their breakup. So he writes a play based on his relationship with Claire, trying to make her the villain, but then he changed his mind. He's diagnosed with bipolar disorder and manic depression. So basically, yeah, he tries to get his life back on track and all that. He goes to New York after graduation, but after Claire has cancer, he moves to Toronto again. But he cheats on Claire. So basically, Eli and Claire are there for each other. It's kind of a strange relationship. Next is Ellie. Ellie was a goth whose father actually ends up going to Afghanistan as part of the Canadian Army, leaving Ellie with her mother, who is an alcoholic. She begins to self-harm by cutting herself with her compass. She does develop feelings for Marco, but Marco comes out to her as being gay, and she begins a fake relationship to mask his homosexuality from his friends. She does get help for her self-harming behavior because Paige wants to help. She dates Sean, moves in with him after her mother set their apartment on fire. And Sean was lonely because his brother was out in Alberta. So anyway, she gets a breakup with Sean, but that's because Sean moved back to Wasaga Beach in the aftermath of the Rick Murray situation. She develops a crush on Craig, but Craig does not agree with the relationship of that. She dates her editor, her school newspaper editor, but Caitlin Ryan steals him from her. So basically, she finds out her father's back from Afghanistan and has PTSD. So basically, Ellie helps herself deal with it. And here comes Emma, 138 episodes. As the daughter of Shane and Spike, Emma is one of the most protagonists of the next generation. She has attended 4 weddings of the earlier series characters. She actually met and danced with Craig Manning, part of Joey's wedding to Julia. Emma is best friends with Manny throughout the series. She's smart, determined, and idealistic, but to a fault. She champions a broad range of causes such as protecting the environment and boycotting GMO food. She goes nude for a cause, but that was because Purple Dragon was forcing her to lose weight and all that. Before Archie Simpson, Snake, marries Emma's mom, much to the discomfort she overcomes. Because basically, her mom's dating her teacher. She actually has an on-again, off-again relationship with Sean throughout her time in the series. She ends up performing oral sex on Jay and gets gonorrhea. She has an obsession with dieting and exercise and gets anorexic and bulimic. Damien cheats on her. She graduates from Degrassi and goes to Smithdale with Manny Liberty. And she starts dating Kelly and all that. Unfortunately, she finds herself being dull and bland, and she basically makes pot brownies to try to make herself more fun. Thankfully, though, Kelly saves her hide. Kelly breaks up with her to take a job with his dad, basically saying that she's being too controlling. Unfortunately, we also learned that Emma's grades have been suffering because she's trying to have a friend with friendships with people, mostly after Manny and Liberty left to do their own thing. She actually comes to Toronto and sets a Don on fire by accident. She tries to comfort Spinner and accidentally marries him. They actually try to divorce each other, but they love each other and have a celebration to recommit their vows, which was one of the most random weddings I've ever seen. Here comes Fiona, Declan's twin sister. She's rich, fashionable, and snobbish. She has a personality disorder and exhibits behaviors including a fear of being alone and cannot have personal relationships. She starts dating Riley, but unfortunately, Riley came out as a gay person, so she basically had to break up with him. So basically, she and Declan moved to New York, but she dates Bobby Breckenridge. Unfortunately, Bobby is abusive to her and cheats on her, which causes her to fall into depression and fly back to Toronto. She stays with Holly and Jane to be best friends and all that. Unfortunately, she's required to testify against Bobby at a trial and self-medicates with champagne. She wins the case and actually ends up going to rehab. Unfortunately, it fails. Even though Fiona tries her best, she can't get a good relationship. Fiona has a relationship with Imogen, but she goes to Italy after graduation. Frankie Hollinsworth and all that. Well, basically, this is like season 13 and 14 before next class. So she was a freshman student and a member of Power Squad, being Miles's younger sister and Hunter's twin sister. She's friends with Zoe. Shows Zoe's pictures of the night she was assaulted. So basically, she begins dating Winston and all that. Now, of course, this is before next class. So basically, in her Next Generation days, she was basically people were trying to blame her for being part of the Degrassi nude scandal because she was kicked off the Power Squad and she might have done it to get them back. But unfortunately, it wasn't what you thought they were. So anyway, there'll be more about Frankie when next class starts. When we do the next class part of the program. And then comes Grace. She's a Gotham commuter chick who basically is a friend of Miles. She's in the remedial room and helps them all out. Grace is revealed to have cystic fibrosis or something like that. I think. I can't remember if that was it or not. Or we only learned about it in Degrassi. Well, next class. So yeah. Next is Hazel Aden, who was in 58 episodes. She was in the first 5 seasons of Degrassi. She's a member of the Spirit Squad and Paige's best friend / sidekick. She's popular and catty towards other girls, and insecure about her Muslim heritage, which came to a head in season 2. I can't remember the episode name, but season 2 was the first time we see a recurring character get a main plot line. And she actually reveals she's from Somalia instead of Jamaica. She dated Jimmy for a time, but unfortunately, Jimmy had feelings for Ellie at one time, and Hazel decides to break up with Jimmy. Good old Holly J is next. She's the younger sister of the unseen character Heather Sinclair. She's rude, sarcastic, and cruel to other students at Degrassi, but she's also insecure. She runs to be called Holly J instead of Holly. She's best friends with Anya until she realizes how abusive Holly J is towards her. She starts dating Blue, but she basically breaks up with him because he tries to change her thing. She tries to save Jane and Spinner's relationship, but fails. Holly J dates Declan. All that. Yeah. All that. So basically, Holly J has problems. She becomes ill with a staph infection, which causes her to experience kidney failure, and she's put on dialysis. And basically, her birth mother comes in and basically blackmails her for $2,000. Holiday doesn't know why, but the mother said that I have a life with 2 kids. How am I going to pay for things if I'm going to be sick after losing a kidney? So basically, Fiona helps them out in the situation. Holiday gets her kidney. She is Degrassi's valedictorian. So anyway, yeah, she did pretty well. Hunter Hollingsworth, the younger brother of Miles and the twin brother of Frankie. So basically, Hunter is blamed for Degrassi News because of his terrible things and all that. So basically, yeah, Hunter is in trouble for his strange stuff. But we'll find out more later. Imogen is next. An energetic and somewhat wild girl, Imogen makes an appearance in season 11. And then for 4 years, she's on the show. She finds out her father has dementia and her parents are divorced. Fiona and Imogen have a nice relationship, but unfortunately, they break up when Fiona graduates. Imogen takes an interest in Adam, though. Anyway, so she befriends Jack or Jacqueline Jones, and they begin dating. But Jack did not come out of the closet to her parents. So basically, Imogen broke up with Jack. Jake Martin is a straightforward guy who is a family friend of Claire's, but of course they get in a relationship, but their parents marry, so they have to be step siblings. They want to have a relationship and all that, but it doesn't work out. JT York, a legend in his own right, the class clown who got in trouble frequently, and basically is immature and all that. He decides to date Liberty after finally realizing Liberty had feelings for him in the first 4 seasons. So in season 4, they decide to date and accidentally gets her pregnant. So basically, he wants to do everything in his power to help Liberty and the unborn child. Unfortunately, it's bad when he becomes a pharmacist assistant and steals oxycodone from the pharmacy. Basically, he tries to commit suicide by taking the oxycodone, but unfortunately for him, in a sense, he fails. But Liberty breaks up with JT and decides to put the baby up for adoption. He starts dating Mia and is interested in Mia's 2-year-old daughter, Isabella. Unfortunately, Lakehurst did not like that one bit, especially Nick. Liberty tells him that she actually still loves JT. He rebuffs her and storms off. But he actually realizes he still loves Liberty and actually tries to look for Liberty, but it was stabbed by Lakehurst, Drake Lampley. His aorta is punctured and basically he's dead. They have the memorial garden in his name and all that. Now, I think it possibly was because JT. I think JT realized that Lakehurst will do anything to kill him. And so basically, I think he wanted to be back with Liberty and basically break up with Mia and not get in trouble with Lakehurst. But unfortunately, that fails miserably. And of course, Ryan Cooley left the show, wanted to go to college and said, kill me off in the weirdest way possible, even though that, some kind of strange thing could have happened. Anyway, Jane Vaughn, aka Anastasia Filari, is next. Jane arrives at Degrassi after Lakehurst fire. She's embarrassed to share the same name as Lucas, who is the father of Mia's daughter, and prefers that people don't know their siblings. She ends up being molested by her father at a young age and gets help about it. Lucas actually helps her out and all of that. She has a relationship with Spinner and all that. So anyway, unfortunately, Jane and Spinner's relationship is bad when Jane said that basically she cheated on Spinner. So basically, Jane tries to break up Spinner and Emma, but realizes they're in love with each other, so she goes to Stanford instead. Jay Hogarth, a rebel and a bully at Degrassi, torturing other students. He's involved with several illegal activities such as stealing and street racing. Emma contracts gonorrhea thanks to him. He begins a relationship with Manny to help her get back at her parents, but it ends up being a real relationship. Manny started it, basically. He breaks into a pawn shop to try to retrieve his mom's ring from Manny and all that. Jay ends up officiating at Spinner and Emma's renewal of vows. So practically, Jay is partially responsible for why Jimmy got shot. Mostly because he convinced Spinner to talk to Spinner to basically yeah, all to blame Jimmy for everything. Not only Rick had a gun and all that. Jay unfortunately loses his relationship with Spinner because Spinner feels he's toxic. Jenna Middleton. She is a powerful musician and all that. She steals Casey from Claire, ending her friendship with them. She tries to lose weight and fit into her power squad uniform, but has anal leakage. She was actually pregnant thanks to Casey. Basically, Casey breaks up with her, thinking that about stuff, and Jenna now has to take care of the baby alone. She tries to enter a talent competition, but loses, and they reunite with Casey. So basically, she gives birth to her baby during the spring dance. Jenna can't take care of the kid by herself, so she tries to move in with Casey and his mother, but there's trouble. She puts Tyson up for adoption, missing her social life and all that. Jenna ends up dating Connor, which is great for both of them. Good old Jimmy Brooks is next. He's from a wealthy family and has a lot of expensive gear. He's Spinner's best friend, even though they fight frequently. He dates Ashley until she takes ecstasy and cheats on him at a party. She becomes Goth and they try to get back together. But after he says that he prefers the old Ashley, Ashley breaks up with him. He dates Hazel until he reveals that he has feelings for Ellie. After Spinner and Jay trick Rick into thinking Jimmy pulled the faded feathers on him, Rick shoots him in the back, which paralyzes him, forcing him to use a wheelchair. Jimmy and Spinner's friendship is broken up over this, rightfully so, and thankfully, though, they get back together. So anyway, he decides to pursue a career in music, even though that his father tried everything in his power to make sure he didn't do that. He starts dating Trina and all that. So yeah, all that. Johnny DeMarco was one of Nick's thugs from Lakehurst. He helps beat up Toby and is present when Drake killed JT, although he wasn't involved in the murder. He attends Degrassi after the Lakehurst fire, and his best friend is Bruce the Moose, and they team up to bully other students and all that. Gets in a relationship with Allie that causes a lot of trouble. So he attends the University of Toronto and actually helps Allie go back to her parents. Basically, Johnny said that I saw my best friend stab someone in the back over some stupid thing. Jonah was in season 14, but more on him later. Katie was a regular in season 11, 12, and 13. All that. She's a black girl who is clueless when he comes in love. And all that. She ends up being student council president, but accidentally tears her ACL playing soccer, which needs her for surgery. Unfortunately, she ends up going to rehab because she overdoses with codeine to keep playing soccer, which leaves her depressed. She recovers, thankfully enough. So, and tries her best thing. She gets accepted to Stanford but can't afford it. She tries to gamble money to pay for tuition but loses everything. But she ends up going to Stanford somehow. We'll see more about. And Katie does help Maya out when Maya has her depression and all that in next class. Casey Guffey, smart, short-tempered, and a member of the basketball and football teams. He befriends Connor and Allie and has an attraction to Claire. He lives in a group home. But Jenna develops an attraction to Casey, and basically Casey breaks up with Claire for Jenna. Unfortunately, basketball coach Carson develops an interest in him. It's kind of a friendship, but the coach was weird. Casey actually shows everyone the coach's gun that he showed Casey earlier, and he's quickly arrested. His mom actually is released from prison. And basically, Casey and his mom live together and all that. He tries to be involved with Jenna's baby's life, but unfortunately, there's a lot of problems. All that. After Casey's father is released from prison himself, Casey and his mom moved to Vancouver to try to get away from Casey's abusive dad. Kelly Oshona. Kelly is the guy from the Yukon who actually basically dates Emma in season 8. And all that. Of course, he takes the blame for Emma when she bakes weed brownies and all that. He breaks up with her on a cycling tour after his dad offers her a job because she becomes too controlling and demeaning. It can also be that Kelly's dad may have convinced him that he shouldn't be with Emma or waste his time. Leah Chang is a gifted student and all that, who was in 17 episodes. Liberty Van Sant, a smart and highly ambitious student at Degrassi, active in a lot of activities. Liberty and JT finally start dating after Liberty in season 4. Unfortunately, she gets pregnant thanks to him. They try to raise the child together. Unfortunately, JT becomes a drug dealer. Liberty realizes that JT may not be stable, so basically she breaks up with him and puts the baby up for adoption. So basically, Liberty finally lets go of her feelings after realizing JT got stabbed over her and all that. So yeah. Good old Liberty and all that. She ends up taking pre-law after a while. Lola Pacini. Lola, we won't know much about Lola until next class and all that. She participates in Degrassi Nudes for the rest of the team. So yeah, Luke Baker came by, was a hockey player and Becky's brother. Unfortunately, he was basically he sexually assaulted Zoe, put in prison for 2 years. Becky visits him in prison, and he tries to convince Becky that he's not mad about Becky turning him in to the authorities. Although Becky says, "You tell Mom that." All that because Becky's being persona non grata. And good old Manny. Manny, born in Manila, is Filipino. Criticized by students and her father for promiscuity. She's best friends with Emma, even though that Emma doesn't take the friendship as well. She ends up being pregnant with Craig's baby and opts for an abortion because she's not ready to be a mom and she's worried about the family disowning her. She has a relationship with JT, but JT screws it up. She dates Spinner until she finds out that he is the reason for Jimmy's confinement to a wheelchair. She has a relationship with Craig, but basically Craig chooses cocaine over her and she is angry. She forms a relationship with Jay to try to get back at her freedom from her parents, but they actually have real feelings for each other and they almost have a relationship and they almost get married and all that. She ends up going to Hollywood to be an actress and all that. Of course, Manny and Emma's friendship took a big step in season 3 when the abortion thing. Emma, even though she was anti-abortion, she kind of realized that Manny had the right to do whatever she had to do. So anyway, But in season 5, Manny got kicked out by her father because of her promiscuity and her acting issues. Emma takes her in as a roommate. And of course, they get up to stuff. Basically, they both try to lose weight for stuff, but Emma starts getting anorexic bulimia because of that. Manny stays with Emma until JT's stabbing, and basically JT that forces Manny's parents to try to get Manny back home. Unfortunately for Emma, she's pissed off that Manny would do that. Worse was that Manny refused to talk to Emma about Emma's feelings towards the stabbing and all that, which led to a big blow off, but in the end, they rekindled friendship. Marco. Marco is the love interest of Ellie until he reveals to her that he is homosexual. They try to have a fake relationship, but didn't work out. He actually comes out to his friends, but Spitter takes it really terribly. But thankfully, though, Spitter has a change of heart and accepts Marco for who he is, and he even helps Marco at times. So basically, he develops a crush on Paige's brother Dylan, and they date. He ends up coming out to his mother, but his father does find out a year later, and his father, I think, is decent about it. So basically, it could be a male prostitution thing, but he turns it away. So yeah, he actually is a student teacher for Degrassi for a few episodes, but it doesn't work out. Marisol Lewis. Marisol was a cheerleader and a waitress at a steak shop where she befriends Casey, but he chooses, and strange that Casey chooses Marisol over Jenna. All that. Maya Matlin. Now this is seasons 11 to 14. Now this is pre-next class stuff. Maya is Katie's younger sister. She's a musician virtuoso. Basically, she has her first love of Cam and all that. Maya ends up having a love triangle with Sig and Cam. But unfortunately, Cam commits suicide in the school greenhouse, putting the school in mourning. She goes through a rebellious phase without properly coping with Cam's death. She basically makes an emotional recovery, thankfully enough. She goes to Paris and develops a relationship with Miles while getting a rivalry with Zoe. Unfortunately, Miles and Maya's relationship was terrible and all that. Tristan hates Maya for getting Mr. Yates fired, even though Maya figures she did the right thing. But thankfully, though, Tristan rekindles their friendship, and Sig and Maya are a thing in season 14. I think because of Sig's gang troubles and Maya wanting to help Sig out, in a way trying to prevent her feelings about Cam's suicide. Call that. So anyway, next up is yeah. So we'll learn about Maya more in the next class phase. But anyway, yeah, she's with Sig. All that. Mia Jones is there. Mia has a child named Isabella. When she was she was a teenage mother. She was 13 years old when she had the kid. She dates JT until Lakehurst decided to stab him to death. She rekindles a relationship with Lucas, but he doesn't want to be a parent. She's offered a modeling career. All that. She actually starts a relationship with Peter, but actually continues her modeling career over being with Peter. So basically, but she does finish school and cut down on modeling. She does go to Europe to model and moves. Unfortunately, Peter tries to move in with her, but he fails. You got Miles Hollingsworth III, who was an athlete transfer from prep school. He's best friends with Tristan, Zoe, and Winston. His father does not like how he is and all that. Of course, Maya and Miles have a decent relationship and all that. So basically, Miles is upset over an intervention from Tristan, Frankie, Hunter, and Winston, and tells Tristan, I treat you like absolute garbage and you keep crawling back for more. Are you really that desperate for someone to love you? Miles gets in trouble for hitting an open car door with a car crash. Of course, Maya tells the truth, the police, and all that. Tristan and Miles break up with each other because Miles is using him. Miles has issues with his father and decides to try to burn the school, but he sets the hallway on fire. So, yeah, so Miles was a decent character and all that about his father. But, of course, we'll learn more about Miles, beg pardon, later on. So, anyway, next is Mo Mashkour. It was weird seeing Mo in the alumni episode of Next Class. Mo has diabetes and all that. Okay, so yeah, so Maya wanted to help Miles out with his father's issues, and mostly in a way to hide her real feelings about Cam and all that. Because of Cam's death and all that. Basically, the police basically tell Maya that you can't help Miles unless he helps himself. Okay, so Owen is a bully and jock at Degrassi. Despite being homophobic, he's actually caring to his gay younger brother Tristan. Wait a minute, I didn't know Tristan was Owen's brother. Jeez. That was kind of weird. And all that. Owen tries to help Tristan survive high school. Yeah, here comes Paige, Michael Check. The diva. She's a popular student in Degrassi who says mean things to other students. She ends up being raped by Dean at a party in season 2. In season 4, she finally gets her trial. But unfortunately, Dean gets off scot-free because of lack of evidence and all that. She tries to get revenge on Dean by crashing Spinner's car into Dean's. So basically, she gets in a relationship with Spinner, which was great, but Spinner cheats on her with Manny. She ends up having a relationship with Alex, which was kind of awkward. She actually also dated Mr. Olander, a student teacher at Degrassi in season 4, and that relationship was just terrible. And the worst part about Paige is that she was willing to fail for him. What the hell, Paige? She unfortunately ends up having panic attacks and bad grades. She has to drop out of banting. She actually has a low-level job at a fashion designer company. So anyway, she ends up working for a reality TV star in Los Angeles. Unfortunately, she ends up becoming a diva when fame goes to her head. Anyway, so Paige basically ends up being Jason Mewes' assistant during the movie and tries to help things out. So anyway, let's leave it at that. There are more characters than I thought there would be. But anyway, yeah, let's leave it at that. There'll be a new thing coming up later on. And of course, the adults will be talked about.